So welcome to another war game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at the, I'm going to call it classic, Normandy 44 from GMT Games. We are recording this on June 6th of 2024. It is the 80th anniversary.
80 years ago.
Which is why we chose to play this today.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it is. Because I remember being a child and seeing the 60th anniversary stuff, and it was all a big, every anniversary with a zero is a big one.
Yeah.
And now it's like, hey, this is a long time.
It is. It's a long time.
But, so Normandy 44 from GMT Games. This is designed by Mark Simonich. This is part of his what's called 40X series, or the Zarkbond series. If you hear the term Zarkbond, which is a name for the series, but also a mechanic of the game, that stands for Zone of Control Bond. The way that zones of control work in this system is a little bit unique, and they form these impenetrable barriers, basically.
Meaning you can't tack move through them, you can't
Yes.
retreat through them. Like if I have a Zarkbond behind you and force you to retreat, if you're done.
Yes. So, and what that does is it makes it so your battle lines are very important, and the integrity of those is important, without having 50,000 counters.
Yeah. It's a counter density
mechanic. Yes, and it helps also, I also think the other part of that is that it helps with kind of tactical positioning and stuff as well, which is neat at times. So you'll hear the term Zarkbond, that's what that means. Hopefully that helps a little bit contextually speaking. This game has been around for a long time. I think it came out in 2008 or 2010.
And this is a third printing copy of it, I think, right?
Yes.
Or third edition.
Third
printing, I think it said on the front. Third printing.
Yes. So this is...
Which just means they did errata and reprinted it, basically.
And I think that might be the most up-to-date one. I don't know if there's been a reprint since. Yeah. So we had most up-to-date rules. It's a nice, shiny, glossy rulebook. I had an older edition of this, and the counters were on white core. These are on gray core, which means they're thicker and a bit nicer. Yeah. The rules were black and white, and they were printed on sandpaper. These ones are much nicer, lots of full-color examples and explanations. So if you're buying this game now, make sure you get the kind of latest edition. It's well worth it. This is a one-map, hex encounter, a kind of operational level World War II game.
I mean, it really feels like a small game, right? I mean, it really, really does. Although it's got a lot of meat to it.
Yeah,
right?
I think
there's a lot of counters.
But I think that's why this game is considered a classic, right?
Yeah.
It's a Normandy game. We all love a good D-Day game, right? But it's one map, so everyone can play it because it fits on everyone's table. But it, like you said, there's a good amount of counters.
Yep.
And it is 22 turns if you want to do the whole campaign, and it's meaty.
Yeah.
So the size of it allows everyone to play it, but the meat of it allows everyone of all levels to play it, right? Yep. A new person can play this, and this will be your first hardcore war game, right? Bit of a learning curve, but you can do it. The experienced grognards are also going to play this and love this. So I think, again, that's part of the reason why this has had so much staying power, is that everyone can play this.
Yeah.
We played this kind of beginning of turn one, do all the special invasions and the airborne landings, and then it is kind of a classic Normandy game. Land all the guys and the troops, try to link up the beaches, trying to break out from your beachheads, trying to go and surround Caen and maybe try to do some combats there, trying to cut off the Cherbourg Peninsula, and just trying to get everything linked up and then kind of spread out as far as you can as the allies. And if you can race guys off the edge of the map this way, you can win an automatic victory. That is very difficult to do, and it's probably going to happen near the end of the game, at which point the game's probably over anyway.
Yeah. Well, but I will say this, the German reinforcement schedule is pretty impressive. I mean,
yes,
they're pulling everything from, from the east, from Paris, and there's a lot of units coming. So getting off I just don't know what circumstance would see you running a lot of units off.
You don't have to run a lot. I think
I know.
You have to run 2 or 3.
Okay.
Which isn't that much.
But
they have to
you
be
can
in
see
supply
here,
fully,
I've got a pretty good line of units.
What? And more are coming in.
Yep.
It's really difficult to do this with the placement of Khan and the canal. I forget what it's called. There's whatever this name is.
Yeah, the blue wall.
So you really can't like skip past that.
You've got to go
easily.
around it.
And so
And that's why the first
challenging.
airborne is so important there. They've got to try to hold that little pocket to allow the beach landings to happen, the small breakout to happen, and then them to link up so they can then push east. So here, it's interesting. This was actually my favorite part of the game, right here.
It was
in this
very
area,
tactically very tight, yeah.
because I had you isolated there, and then you, ironically,
Yes.
kind of a glitch in the matrix and the rules and the way Zocbons work. I had played that particular area more like a traditional war game. I'm going to fill that gap so you can't retreat through it. I'm going to cut your supply off. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't need to do that because I had a very strong Zocbon there. I could have moved those guys away. You would not have been able to attack me at my weakest spot.
Yeah, they were the
move.
weakest spot, and I was able to counterattack and relieve some guys who were going to be isolated. And had those guys had your units not been there, I would not have been able to do that.
Because my other stacks were higher.
Yeah,
I think it would have been a bad. So that was interesting. That was one of those tactical kind of errors that I made as we learned the game. Made the comment. That was so fun. This part was so fun. The battle for Cannes was so fun.
But yeah, I thought it was so interesting because we've been talking about this now for about 10 minutes before we turn the camera on of this little part.
We always waste that good conversation too.
But you have to play to the strength of the mechanics of the game.
Yes.
And
use those to your advantage.
Yeah.
Every game is like that. You have to learn it. And trial and error, and then play it to its strength the way it should have or was designed to be played.
Yeah, because if you play to the design, I could not have done that.
Right.
And I would have been in real trouble.
Yep.
But this is also a game that I really liked because it's very, very crowded those first 2 or 3 turns. And then that beachheads start to kind of broaden out and link up, and then those zones of control come into play. And a lot of the other games in the series, like you kind of start with them, or you think about what's the Salerno, kind of doesn't have a lot of them in it because it's so tight. But this one you get to kind of make them.
Yeah.
And I felt like in this game that was
we have artillery.
You don't see a lot.
Yeah. Artillery falling around us. Yeah, you're right.
That was cool to see that develop.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, oh, cool. I was purposefully like trying to encircle the guys at Bayou and like trying to make this kind of big long line across the front to protect this roadway because I was getting victory points.
Well, that was an interesting part of your victory point goal was trying to link up all the beaches and control that road. And I remember when you read that at the beginning of the game, I was like, well, that's kind of odd. But then because you still don't have it.
No.
End of turn 4, beginning of turn 5, which is where we've stopped for this evening, you still don't have it, and I'm not sure you're going to get it next turn. It's going to be close, but these are going to hold out a little bit.
I will probably need all 7 turns of this kind of
to just get that
early
road
game
open.
campaign to do that.
And that's interesting because once again, when you read that at the beginning, I thought there's just no way you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to walk over these guys. So somewhat...
But it only takes one hex, one
that
zone of control
to
lose the... and I thought that was neat.
This is a neat little part of the game. I really like this area over here around Cannes. And we have just started to kind of...
Oh my gosh.
Carentan and the Cherbourg Peninsula, we're just starting to see it open up a little bit.
And Cherbourg's a ways away. Good gracious. Utah Beach and the 82nd, 101st Airborne over there. First off, I rolled tremendously badly
for the
scatter rolls.
5 out of your 6 stacks here.
And they were all scattered,
yeah. Losses, 5 out of your 6 stacks were scattered and lost.
So I take a bunch of reductions, and they literally can't do anything that first turn.
So that really helped me because you weren't able. I kind of set you back 1 turn. Over here, you did better, but I thought this also went poorly with the airborne, which was interesting.
Yeah, it was. And this one, I think, is a distance thing. This one, I was just like, they were all dead and it was real bad.
Yeah, yeah.
But this one, because of how ugly the canals are and the rivers, they landed better. I rolled better on the scatter rolls for the 6th Airborne Division. But getting the Commonwealth units off the beaches to link up with them, I felt was slower. I was not doing as good a job, and you had more units up here that was slower to clear out. Over here by, that Cherbourg and Saint-Mary-Église, though, you have all that flooded terrain, all that bocage. The flooded is crushingly difficult to attack into.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
Because it gives you a shift to the left and gives me 4 terrain bonus.
It's half attack.
Which is even worse.
Yes, it's very bad. Worse. And so I got a bunch of reduced airborne units, so they're down a step, they're only in attack 3, and they couldn't even do it the first turn anyway because they were scattered. So it's just like, they just couldn't do anything. They were just hanging on. And so I'm like desperately trying to run guys onto the beach, but Utah Beach doesn't have the same capacity as Omaha or Gold or Juneau. The beach is not as big.
As big, yeah.
And so it was slower to get reinforcements on.
Yep.
The terrain is slower. It's really ugly over there. And so I felt like this was a quagmire because you're holding on to that with units that aren't particularly
very
strong. And my guys are decent. They're getting better, but it's so slow. And I thought that was just I liked the different dynamics in different parts of the board. I thought that was really neat.
It reminded me of the game we played last week, BCS Brazen Chariots.
Yep.
That game also, I felt like had, you had the area around Tobruk, and then you had the area, what was the other?
The Hellfire Pass.
Yeah. Totally different games, totally different tactical situations, totally different setups, and I really felt like this had that as well. A little more similar than that game, but playing 2 games like that in a row in a weekly succession.
Yeah, I felt like we've seen a lot in the last 2 weeks.
It was interesting. The other thing I liked about over here, the reinforcements over here come in this box. It's called the mobilization boxes, I think, right? And you get to put those out, and I think as I was thinking about those, I kept asking myself, okay, what's his progress been? Where's he trying to go? And what do I need to do to stop it? And while the units are fairly similar, there were some little differences. One had a little more movement and one had a little more strength. So I was able to think about, okay, what's going to happen soon? And those are the guys that I brought on. I liked that.
Yeah.
That felt like a real decision point, like an area where I had to think about what was going on. My reinforcements over in the east, it was just, you get a bunch of guys and you put them out. Didn't really have a lot of thought about that.
It's like rush to the holes that you kind of got to do.
Move your guys up, just fill the areas, try to keep them out of the city. But I really liked that element, and it always seems, and we played Dark Summer a couple of years ago, that had a very interesting abstracted Cherbourg box.
Yes.
Where it didn't even look like this. It was basically just a line
on the map.
It was like a line of units. So I like how a couple of different games that we've played have treated that situation a little bit differently. Another one that I really liked from Compass was Fortress Europa.
Yes.
The way they handled Cherbourg was pretty interesting.
That was also, a box, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was a little more abstract.
I can't remember that one. That game was freaking cool, though.
But this was interesting, and we have yet to really fully get into that.
No, but I liked that there's a lot of points to be had up there.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to get to.
They have that defensive perimeter in there to encourage the German player to not just evacuate.
Sure.
Because I was kind of worried about it because something like Dark Summer, hey, there's a bunch of guys in the box, they're locked in there to kind of prevent you from doing some like silly ahistorical stuff by like running all the guys out.
Yep.
And I was like, why would you could do that in this game. The guys aren't very strong up there.
No, they're garbage.
But
actually.
you could do it, but the defensive values up there are so much stronger.
Well, this, like you said, this line's pretty interesting because isn't that
that's half attack going over
across,
it, and
so
then they just pull back to the city where it's no armor bonuses plus 5 defense. Like
there's some interesting mechanics up there and some interesting setup that's going on. You'll notice my Zachmans look really good up there.
Yeah, they do. But there's nothing stopping you from moving all of those
performing
guys out
that
if you wanted to, which I think that's something that a lot of games don't allow you to do. And I thought that was neat.
And maybe you do that a little bit, right? You move
some of it
just to try to slow you down, and then make that decision. Okay, I got to fall back to have you at that point. The thing I really liked about this, though, it had so many different tactical decisions, and I very much enjoyed our experience here tonight.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll show you kind of how some of this works so you can get a better gauge for the scope and scale of the game, and then we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the map. I hope this isn't too jaunty an angle. I don't think it is, but so I kind of focused on the middle part of the map here where most of the counters are. It does go up all the way to kind of Cherbourg and up in the sea over there, and there's a little bit, there's probably like 7 or 8 hex rows down to the west, and maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 to the south. And by west, I definitely mean east. But I kind of want to focus on the action here and what that looks like, so you can kind of get a gauge for what we're trying to do and how the mechanics play into the tactical decisions that go on. So, kind of to start with, I guess I should go with, if you're going to play this, you have all of these kind of shore holding boxes for the initial landing forces. There's a special kind of pre-turn 1 D-Day landings that you'll do. Your troops will all land. It's just a case of how beat up they get doing it. So you as the Germans will not be repulsing them off the beaches, right? The turn track, which is just off map here, it goes to June 27th, right? You're not going to have a game that's half a turn and then you have to pack it up again. That's not what this is about. The landings themselves, getting the guys on the beaches, is a bit of a foregone conclusion. Now, consolidating your beachheads, linking up the beaches, and then breaking out, that's what this game is, and that's where the game is. You'll also have a couple of pre-turn airborne landings, so you have 6th Airborne Division from the British and Commonwealth Forces, and then you have 82nd and 101st up here as well. And that's very typical. You put them out on the setup, and then you roll a die to see if they take wounds and if they get scattered, so they basically can't do anything for a turn. That's all. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to, like I said, your guys are pretty much all going to kind of start in these beach hexes. A bunch of them are probably going to end up damaged. And there's a neat table that you roll on that some of your infantry will take losses, and then you roll for your tanks separately because they might also take losses as well, but at this scale, maybe not as many. So those seem to survive pretty well. But you'll still have a bunch of these holding boxes for the subsequent waves in subsequent turns, and that's where the congestion comes in. So it's really important to break out, give yourself 2-3 rows of hexes off the beaches to give you space to land more guys, because if you don't have the space, it gets very congested, and those guys, it jams up, and they get these regroup markers, and it gets very, very slow, and you want to try to maintain your momentum as much as possible. So that's a lot of what this is. There's also these holding boxes for things like air superiority markers and naval support markers. I'll try to kind of show it here, but there's this blue, I think it's blue, is that blue? Yeah, there's a blue dotted line, it looks black from a distance, that goes all the way along here, all the way up around here, all the way up here, and then it continues on this way, kind of cuts off these hexes north of Caen, and then back round here, past the Merville batteries in Cabor. I don't know how that's pronounced. That's the naval support zone, so your naval ships can shoot this far, and they give you a column shift. They're very, very good. But it's that thing where the Allies are going to be real strong here, but breaking out of these established beached heads, That's the real challenge. That's what's extremely difficult, because you lose your naval support, and by that time, hopefully, the Germans have reinforced themselves so that there's, you know, a strong contest and the game really develops in that way. So that's kind of one of the key things here as well, that you kind of have to stretch with. Some other neat bits and pieces that they have is they have this red dotted line that goes rough. Game-wise, it serves no function, but it is the historical front line at the end of the campaign. So if you can kind of push further than this and really break guys out and drive them off the board, which are victory conditions, you can very easily measure yourself against what was historically done. And I always like a game that does that. Some games it's easier to than others because we can draw a very specific line on the map. Some games, things are a bit more nebulous, but I really like that in this one. But this game, part of the 40X series, you're going to get a very traditional kind of I go, you go style of game. The sequence of play is very much like, you know, the Germans are going to move some guys and then they're going to shoot some guys. And then they're going to kind of regroup and do some exploitation movement, or reserve move as they call it in this one, check your supply, and then it flips over to the Allied side. They're going to move all their guys, they're going to shoot all their guys, they're going to also have reserve movement if they've chosen to do it, and then they're going to kind of, you know, check their supply. And then that's a turn. So traditionally speaking, again, if you played a 40X game, you know how to play this, especially the core parts of it. But it is not particularly complex from that sequence of play standpoint. There's not like 10,000 steps in each turn. So when you're moving all your guys, you're going to kind of pick up your units, and you're going to simply consult this movement factor on the bottom right-hand corner. You have 4 movement points, and you're going to consult I think I picked them up from here. You're going to consult the play aid for how much you can actually spend your movement points on. And this is where this is one of the things that wasn't my favorite, is that the terrain effects chart is not pictorial. It just describes it, and it's got colors, and the names here correspond to a key that's just off the map, which is fine, but you could have squeezed the terrains in here. I like play aids that do that. It just makes it that much quicker and easier instead of having to reference different charts. But yeah, you're going to spend your movement points moving through mixed terrain, going across rivers. Maybe you're traveling on primary roads or secondary roads. There's this flooded terrain, which is really nasty. That's very bad. We've got woods, we've got heavy terrain. A lot of bocage, obviously. And we do have some clear terrain in these major rivers as well. But yeah, you wouldn't know it from here. It's not pictorial, so you do have to refer to the key that's printed on the map as well. But yeah, moving guys is quite simple. You just move them with their movement points. So if I'm going to drive on the road, I'm going to consult, is it a non-mech unit or is it a mechanized unit? And then that will give you how many movement points it costs to go on those things. When we look at roads, it's like half or a third if it's a primary road, depending on the weather and on your faction. So I've got 6 movement points with this mechanized guy. If I'm driving on the roads, it's a third. If I'm only on the primary roads, I could drive 9 hexes if I'm purely on primary road. But I'm not. I'm kind of pottering around up here. And so I might kind of drive. I want to link up with him because they're from the same division, so they can stack much more easier. Everyone can stack, but they can attack together in a formation. So he's going to go half, 1, 1.5, 2, and we'll go 2 1/3. I'm just going to expend that because I'd rather stack them together so that in the future they can move. Or, you know, I could drive him down, kind of down here, and then this guy could link up with him down here if I wanted to kind of do an attack across a minor river. It's a road, but maybe I don't want to do that. But you're going to do all your moves. Yeah, I think this guy was up here, but you know, you're moving guys around, and you do all your moves, and then you do all your shoots. That is, unless you are choosing to use your strategic movement markers. I have the German ones handy, so I'm just going to use those. Or your reserve move markers. So you have these units that you can mark with reserve, Because again, you do all your moves and all your shoots. That's really important in a game like this. But what you can do is you can put a reserve marker on this guy. Let's say we'll put it on him. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bunch of different attacks and stuff. You know, I might swing this guy down here, bring in some guys. We might launch an attack. Great. If we succeed in the attack and we can kind of take this spot, after we do our moves and attacks, you then get to a reserve move and a reserve combat phase. And think about this as exploitation move. So this guy did not and could not move in the regular movement phase because we were marked him with a reserve marker. We do our regular moves, we do our regular combats, and I'll show you one of those in a second. But then this guy gets to move at that point. Now, there's some restrictions to it. I believe they only get half movement points. But, you know, this guy can then... This might not be the best example because of the roads, but, you know, if there's a road going along, he could then exploit this gap that force these guys to retreat. He can then go and start threatening down here, whereas normally I would do my moves, I do my combats, and I'm kind of stacked here. So it's that exploitation, that kind of micro blitzkrieg. You'd have a very limited number of these reserve markers. I think the Germans have like 5 or 6 of them. The Allies have a similar number, but you know, sometimes those are extremely important. Now, in and around Caen, or maybe up here when you're first working through the bocage, where there is not a lot of opportunity for maneuver, you might do less of that. But it's also important to have one guy in reserve. These guys are fighting out. You're going to make a guy retreat 2, maybe 3 spaces. This guy can advance into the hex. Now this guy can push up here, and he's not just going to move back and I've got to fight. It makes it more efficient. You're taking more, geographical, topographical space, area, land, by using those reserves. Again, it's a plan. You kind of have to try to do it. There are some parts of the game that are very bogged down and slow, but getting that extra 1 hex or an extra hex or 2 can make a massive difference in outmaneuvering your enemy in this one. So that's kind of a broad sequence of play. I do my moves and attacks, and if I've assigned people to reserve, those couple units can then do moves and attacks afterwards. So let's roll through an attack real quick. It's not particularly complex, especially if you've played one of these games before, but effectively you're going to have a combat results table that you're going to roll 1d6 on, and there's a big list of modifiers that you're going to look at down here. But it's really not particularly complex. So let's just pick a couple units. We'll get rid of that disrupted marker here. This will be good. We'll take a big stack of units against a big stack of units. Okay. And we are going to say that this combat is going to happen in this bocage hex from this hex right here. And that's important because we're going to get some terrain modifiers here. So the Germans have a pretty tasty stack here. So they have an infantry unit with 2 combat power. They have a mechanized infantry unit with 6 combat power. And then they also have some... Are these flak 88s? I think they are. With a bracketed 3 defense. That means they can only or attack value means they can only defend. So we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we've got 11 points there. One of the fascinating things about this game is that you cap out at 18. So even if you have 2 giant stacks attacking 1 hex, you cap your power at 18. What that does is that means that shifts are extremely important because they will almost always be effective. And it also means that you can't just steamroll opponents in this one unless you have all that support. So it makes planning very important. So we got those guys, and we're going to attack them with the stack of units that I had over here. So we're going to attack them with, I have 12, 13, 14, 15 strength points here. 2 of them are from those, 12 of them from those 2 infantry units, and 1 of them from those tanks. So I'm going to pick a lead attacking unit. In this instance, I'll just pick this guy right here. So his lead attacking troop quality value is a 0. Okay, that's important. So I'm attacking there, and I have a 0. We're going to pick a lead defense unit here, and I'm going to pick my +1 guy. Okay, And we're going to do that because we're going to deny the attacker a modifier. And that's really important. However, it means that my really good 6 guy has to take those first hits, and you know that's the sacrifice that you're gonna be taking there. So we had a 15 on an 11, I think it was. Yeah, which we're gonna start on this, not that one. There we go. On the 1-to-1 table here. 1-to-1. 50% of the time, I guess it's actually 66% of the time, the attacker's going to take a loss. In an exchange, attack takes a loss. And then down here, we're just forcing the defender to retreat. So it's okay, it's not brilliant, it's a 50-50, it's not great. So we want to do what we can to increase those odds. So let's look at our CRT modifier. So shifts for attacker and defender. So the troop quality shift. And the troop quality shift is interesting because it is not equal. So in a lot of games, it's the net difference is a modifier. In this one, you just deny the attacker a modifier. And then if you have a better defensive modifier, or if you have really bad negatives, you take a penalty in determined defense. So the troop quality, it doesn't exist in this one. Okay, that's all we're doing. Then we have an armor shift. So there could be an armor shift because we have a tank unit, and they have this gray 3, which is the armor value. However, that's why we had those flak 88s here. They have a red 4. So this 4 is bigger than this 3, and so it denies the tank shift. So there's no armor shift there. It being red is only important in determined defense. So if the Germans have an opportunity to do a determined defense, that red value being bigger than my gray value means they're much more likely to hang on. So no, and then Tiger tank shift, we don't need Tiger tanks in this one. So nothing from that. So shifts right for the attacker. 1-to-2 if we have offensive air support. So if we have air support available, which we do, we could drop 1 or 2 of those. I'll just drop, I'm going to do 1. I'll do 1. So we go from 1-to-1 over to 2-to-1. We could pop a naval support. Well, I've got naval support available, however, I am outside this naval support line, so I can't use it. We're quite literally out of range. If the defender had a strategic movement marker on them, so if they literally had one of these markers on top of them, where they're all kind of packed up in their trucks and moving on the road as fast as possible, not defending themselves, we would get a shift from that. That's not the case. And we can also get shifts from artillery support. Funnily enough, I don't. So I've got this guy over here. He has a range of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, we're just out of range of that. This guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, out of range. I don't have any artillery in range, but these HQs, you can flip them and spend supplies. I don't have any supplies, so I couldn't really do it anyway. To get an armor shift from those. These are a bit more traditional, kind of, they have a 5 hex range, so you're trying to move those around, but if you move them, they can't shoot. Very typical artillery HQ style stuff. So we can't get any shifts from there, so that's all the attacker shifts. Now we're going to get shifts back this way on the left for the defender. If all units in the main attacking force are attacking across a major river, a flooded hex side, and or out of a flooded hex side. That is not the case. Are they on a hilltop hex? That is not the case. Hilltop hexes look like, that's off screen, like this one right here. They have a little point on there, a little hilltop hex. That's not the case either. And then there's also a Jabos table, which is, it's really punishing. That's if the Germans are attacking in clear weather, there is a 50-50 shot that they're going to take significant penalties in attack because they don't have air superiority. Like the Typhoons, the Spitfires, the P-51s come in and just like shoot them up when they're launching an attack, basically. But that's not the case because the Allies are launching this attack. Great. So we did all of that. There'd be some halving going on if and when we were going into certain types of terrain. Oh, whoopsies. So let's take a quick look. We're at the bocage. Oh, whoopsies. So there are 3, there are 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, perfect. So I had forgotten about this. So there is a 3 defensive combat bonus. So the Germans who were an 11, they're actually 12, 13, 14. I was a 15 to a 14. That's still 1-to-1, so we're still good. We got it up to a 2-to-1 with that aircraft. So we're just going to roll 1d6 on a 2-to-1 table. So we're going to pick up our nice little allied-looking die over here. These are not included in the game. These are mine. And I rolled a 5. Great. So on a 2-to-1, we rolled a 5, which is a DR defender retreat result. So on a DR, the defender must either retreat or conduct a determined defense. If the defender retreats, they become disrupted. The attacker may advance after combat if the defender retreated. So the options here are, I retreat, and in this instance, they would retreat 2 spaces. They're going to sit in Vier's Bocage, and they would become disrupted. Disrupted is fine, you're going to remove that at the end of your next turn as the Germans, but it means they're kind of limited in what they can do. I would move into this space, and that would kind of be the end of that. But again, you know, if I'd lined it up where I had some guys in reserve right here, these guys would subsequently, you know, kind of move and could attack these guys, and you can really punish people and get them out if that's what you're doing. But you know, that's difficult to kind of manage. So that's kind of, if you play it out, that's what a DR is. The other option they had was to conduct a determined defense, and this is one of the hallmarks of this system, and it's usually quite fun. And in this instance, you know, there's no... I'm going to pick up a victory point here, and then I'm going to be threatening this one here, but, you know, I'm not really... I'm kind of in a space where I would just be trying to stop them, but I'm also going to get my supply cut. So I would probably retreat in this instance. But if you wanted to conduct a determined defense because you were defending some significant terrain, basically, or some VPs, you're going to look at this little table and decide whether you want to. So am I in a flooded or a clear hex? I'm going to roll on this real bad table. That's not the case. If I'm rolling on the other table, so other, I'm in other terrain because I'm not in an improved position, I'm not in a strong point or a city. So I'm going to roll on this column, and I'm going to look at my little DRMs. So if the lead unit's TQ or armor rating comparison result. So this is where we look at this unit on top. So I'm going to say this is my little lead unit for my determined defense, and I have this red 4 against his 3, which means I'm going to go ahead and get a positive modifier from that. So I'm going to get a... so I've got a positive on this one from his TQ, yes. So sorry, this is what it is. So my lead unit was this guy. I've got the +1, and they had the +0. So in a defensive... in a determined defense, it is, if you have more than them, there is a modifier. Even if you have less, there's no penalty, but if you have more than them, it's a modifier. So we had a +1 to a 0, so we're going to get a +1 on this. And if defensive support, which we also have, that's what this red armored number is. So we're going to get a +1 from that too. So we're going to get a +2 to this roll, which means we're pretty likely, whoopsies, +2 to this roll, that we're pretty likely to defend this. So I'm going to roll my German D6 and add +2. I rolled a 6, that goes to an 8. That's wonderful. So I'm off the table here, which means we're going to do an AL and a dot result. So the dot result means retreat cancelled. I don't have to leave that space. And an AL, any one attacking unit loses 1 step. Great. So in this instance, the attacker got a DR result. And what we did is we did a determined defense, and that inflicted a loss on the attacker, and then the retreat was cancelled. So that's kind of a bummer for the Allies there. That's not a good result. It looked like it was going to be, but that's why 2-to-1, 1-to-1, not great. If you start getting up 3-to-1, 4-to-1 with that naval support, if you can bring an extra stack of units, if you can thin out their numbers, you can get on these much better ones. It's harder for them to do determined defenses if you can break up their units, and especially like a lot of the Germans have these -1s or 0s, so they're not getting modifiers and positives on those determined defenses. But yeah, that's a tough one, right? And it slows us down. And if this happens, and I had this guy in reserve, well, he now really can't do a whole lot, because he could move and attack, but he's attacking at a 6 on a stack that's going to have like 14 still. You don't want to do that, trust me. But that's you know, move all my guys, attack with all my guys like that. The Germans are going to do more moving and less attacking because of that Jabbo roll. This is so punitive. But they might do some really key counterattacks, especially early. They might want to try to break this up if they can stop this beach link up. Because at the moment, in this game, your zone of control bonds are really important, especially as you link up, because then they can't force you back and like run you around. So at the moment, we're looking, it's okay, it's not great. If we can eliminate these guys and push out here, we have this line of units, and as long as there's only one space in between, we have a zone of control going all the way around here. We're going to link up with these guys, and this is where things are a bit nebulous. We haven't connected here, and we're a bit too spread out here because I've been landing more. There's just fewer units here for the Allies, because I've been landing a bunch here because it's been really sticky. But if I can get more guys on here, you're going to make this big, long line, and you need fewer units to protect those, and the counterattacks against them are much more difficult to do. Because if I've got, let's say I've got these two guys here, and I kind of move to attack one of them, then it's really easy for me to just kind of fold in on one guy who's moving in and attacking. And that's one of the kind of the hallmarks of this system, is that, if I've got lines of guys, I've got zones of control here, which means you simply cannot drive or draw supply through them. But if I go and attack just one of them like this, I'm going to get folded like a deck chair, and it's going to be really, really bad. The pincer movements in this are really, really fascinating, and you end up matching units one for one across this long kind of spread out line, and you get into some really, really meaningful combats on either side. So that's kind of a core look at what this rule set offers. And the video is going to go a really long time, but love Normandy 44, love what the system offers, and what we'll do is wrap up with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the map. Yes, I had a wonderful time playing this. It's the 40X series, which, love the 40X series. Yeah. I've never played a 40X game I didn't enjoy.
I didn't think you enjoyed Stalingrad 42 that much.
And that is...
And I did enjoy that one, even though I played the Russians falling back and...
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yes, but as much as I might have said that it was just like, okay, I think about that game a lot. Like, I think about that game... Every time we play a 40X game, I think about that game. Because it... And I really do... I would go and revisit it for sure.
Sure.
Which,
well, and then they have that expansion that we never played, the Saturn or was that
Operation Saturn or
Saturn?
Uranus? But
Uranus.
If you'd asked me kind of the day after we played it, I don't know if I would have said that. But yeah, genuinely, that's one of those games that has kind of just like sat with me after we've played it. It's just so huge.
It is.
We have a huge table though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's one of my fondest memories of just, it was an all-day war game, and I think, did my wife have surgery that weekend, and we had to do it at my house, and...
I don't remember the surgery part, but I just don't remember.
I remember I had to pay attention to her quite a bit, and I remember a couple of times I really got into the game, and I'm like, I need to go check on her.
That does ring bells, yes.
But anyway, we've actually played most of the 40X series games. The ones that we haven't played are like Ukraine 43.
Which...
Do we have a copy of that?
No.
Okay.
It's very difficult to get a hold of. I want to say, are they redoing it though?
Maybe they are.
Because I think they did like one edition of it. Okay. If you look at the box, it's like no offense, it's the old early 2000s box, and it looks like
terrible.
But and in France 40.
Yeah, we just got that. We haven't played that yet. That's clipped and ready to go.
That one was also unavailable for a long time, so I'm really glad they redid that. Please redo Ukraine. But so I think those are the only two though.
Okay.
I think we've played
that we
all
haven't
the
played.
Ones, yeah.
But I always have a good experience with these. I enjoy a couple of the mechanics about this series. I really enjoy. Zachbonds are fun.
Yep.
I'm not sure I fully understand and grok them all as much as I probably should, but I like the concept.
Yes.
Right? I like the concept, how it fits with a little less counter-dense game. Although this is pretty counter-dense, but typically you're able to use that well when you have a few less counters.
Yes.
I enjoy that. I enjoy the desperate defense quite a bit. This game, I didn't feel like the desperate defense was as good.
It's determined defense.
I'm sorry,
because
determined
desperate
defense.
defense is the sub mechanic of that,
It
which
is.
is very confusing.
It is.
Gotta call it something else.
But the determined defense, I've enjoyed that, like in Holland 44. I remember thinking, ooh, this is really good.
And in Stalingrad was
in
was
Stalingrad
too.
Here, I don't know. It didn't work for me as much. And that's a weird statement.
Yeah.
It's a die roll, and it's a very low odds die roll. You got to roll basically a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, and I think the odds for it here, because the best odds you get in like strong points and in cities.
Or cities, yeah.
There are some cities on this map.
There are.
There's not a ton,
Yep.
and you won't fight over them like as much. Whereas I felt like in Stalingrad, there's a lot of those different strong points, and you can cities and stuff. Whereas this is half the battles are happening away from those, and what that means is that determined defense
It's harder to do.
very difficult,
Yeah.
if at all worth it.
Yeah.
And so that featured less. I think you failed a bunch of those rolls. We had a couple where it happened.
Yeah, but I always enjoy those two mechanics with this system. And then there's some unique things, right? The way the weather affects supply and the way the weather affects replacement points. And there's a lot to like in this game, in this system. And we only played about an hour a turn. We played 4 full turns and started the 5th, but it's late. I got work tomorrow. You got work tomorrow.
Yeah.
We wanted to do this because it's D-Day.
It's anniversary.
But I would play this game again.
Oh, without question.
I think I would play this and Ardennes 44 again at the drop of a hat. We played both those this year.
Yeah, that's funny, huh? And we'll play France this year too.
Yeah.
It's 40x.
Yeah. Well, and this is a part of our Shelf of Shame dust-off.
Yes.
So this was supposed to be our July game, but we moved it up to June because our other June game was Day of Days, and we didn't have enough time.
Yeah, so I had this at my house so I could set it up during the week and it's playable.
Yeah.
Day of Days will get pushed to June. So
To July.
July, yeah.
July, because this is June.
You'll have to bring that over so I can have time to set it up that week.
And I really want to play one of the airborne scenarios. Everybody really talks about those quite a bit, but that game's all clipped and ready to go. But this is this should have been game number 6. It's only game number 5. We did miss April.
Yeah, we missed 1 month.
But I'm very proud of us that we have played 5 out of those 6 identified games through the first half of the year.
And we identified, that's kind of the whole point of this event, is that we identified like games that are
key games that we wanted to play.
Classics. We knew they were going to be good, and so far, all the ones we played have been, you knock them out of the park.
Well, the 2 BCS games we've played were just absolutely brilliant. This was brilliant. Ardennes 44 was brilliant. Dien Bien Phu was also really, really good.
Yeah.
I had a blast with that one.
Yeah. They've all been really good, and they've all been really different.
They have, absolutely.
And I've even the games in the same series.
Yeah.
Like Brazen Chariots and Baptism by Fire.
Felt very
totally
different.
This, totally different from Ardennes.
Yep. Well, and that's what I like about, I think these designers are good at what they do. They design the game around the battle, not necessarily the system to fit the battle, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
Mark, Ardennes 44 had a lot of very cool things that we...
And that one was very different.
Oh, it was very different. This one even felt a little bit different.
I think it felt very different. I felt like this one was quite different, and it's from the Chrome standpoint. Things like, the weather affecting those replacement points, the Allied player having the reinforcements in Britain, and you just have like purchase points. You kind of get to choose what you want and where it comes
Interesting.
in. I felt like I had a lot of freedom from that standpoint. Some of the nuances in this one about formation stacking and activations, or attacking together, that it's a little bit stricter. Some of the other games it's kind of a bit more loosey-goosey at times. I
really like the supply points here too, with how they worked with artillery.
Yeah,
I really like that because I know you were still only getting like 1. Do you start to get more when you have your mulberry?
Yes.
Okay, so that was still 2 turns away, 3 turns away.
I was away, but and then the weather becomes really important because the storms
will really hurt that.
Yeah, still hurt, and so you're like, oh no. Yeah, that was a neat part of it. So you get some of that strategic stuff where it's like, okay, I clear out the beaches, I can start building the mulberries. You don't get to reap those benefits until another 5 turns after you start building them. So bits and pieces like that are important. But I think one of the other features of this is that the Allied air and naval superiority is huge,
and you can feel it, and that's good. It's a good part of the design. It sucks, but it's a good part of the design.
There were times it feels like oppressive.
Oh yeah,
and
almost every key attack you were able to get to at least 3-1, and more often than not 4-1 because of your air and naval assets, and that's great because without that, I think this would be a real slog for the Allies.
Yeah, you have to have that, and then it's really interesting where that kind of naval bombardment line is and what's on either side of it, and you're like, oh, that's why that historically was very difficult.
Yep.
And that's
this starts to be 7, 8, 10 miles in 15 miles inland. I can't remember the scale.
Is it, I don't know.
That's pretty far. Cannes pretty far in there.
Is it a mile a hex?
Maybe it is. Got to be more than that. No, 3.8 kilometers, 2.4 miles.
So that's about what you said.
It's like 15 miles, 14 miles. But I really like that. The other thing I really enjoyed, and I'm going to say this, the Germans in this game are not going to be attacking a lot.
No.
But I did 3 or 4 attacks that I thought they were very important.
Yes, key counterattacks, as is tradition.
They were key. If they would have worked. Now I think only I know this one worked over here.
Yeah, this one was good.
And I had one more over here that was good, but this one, that pissed me off.
That one was so bad.
I'm telling you what, if I'd have won that one, I think this area looks so different. And then this one over here, I attacked you once here, and I'm like, really? I had good odds, and I just rolled garbage, and that's fine. That's the way it is, but I enjoyed that I actually had opportunities to counterattack.
Yes.
And that's good. You got to plan it, think about it, be ready for it.
Yeah,
and do it.
And depending on how things go, like if the Allies are really having bad dice rolling very early on, you could get some very strong German counterattacks near the beaches, because if the Germans can take and eliminate enclose 3 beaches, they win the game.
I don't ever see that happening.
I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, ever.
But I also think it's one of those games where if you can get one, you can only do that if you're in such a strong position that the other ones might be collapsing. I don't know how you're going to get there in the first place. And after turn 4 or 5, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
The reality of the beach landings, it's just not that kind of game.
No, not in this one, no.
You are not punished that much for... You lost a step, and I lost my guy every time, right? Even there were times you rolled low, and my strong point's gone, but you took a loss.
I rolled Bloody Omaha once, and so I took a loss, and nothing happened. But you roll again because, you will defeat them. It's just how many losses you will take.
Yeah.
Which is.
But it was funny. One of the pictures I posted, somebody, and there's always that guy, right? Oh, if I was playing, they wouldn't be that far. And I'm like, really, dude? Have you ever played this game? Because that was literally a die roll, and you rolled 1s, and I still lost.
Yeah.
It's just the way the game's set up.
It was,
It's not about that. This is not a beach landing game. You know what I'm saying? The landing is almost abstracted to a point that's a foregone conclusion. You just take losses.
Weirdly, okay, do you remember the Dark Summer and how pointless those landings were?
Oh, it was terribly pointless.
That was pointless, where I was like, why did you include
just set it up on the beach.
In this one,
it was a little more important.
It was more important.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we did it.
All I'm saying, though, is it's not that kind of game.
You will not fight them off the beaches.
Yeah, you're not. Salerno 43, I felt like I had a shot to counterattack you on the beaches as you were landing.
I agree with that. But yeah, this, the actual D-Day, the Normandy landings in this is the pre-turn of turn 1.
It's...
Go and play D-Day at Omaha Beach if you want to play a beach landings game. That is not what this is.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So yes, Normandy 44.
Loved it.
GMT games.
Loved it.
Everyone loves this game, and they do for a reason, and we have seen that reason.
And now we know why.
And I fully agree with them, that's for sure.
It's amazing.
So check this out if you're interested. You should be interested. You should go play this.
You know what we need to do now that we've played almost all the 40? We need to do a 40X ranking.
Sure.
video.
I think
We really do.
If we play France this year,
Yes, then we can do it.
because Ukraine is unavailable. And
Yeah,
has
we'll
been
just have
for a
to say
long
that's
time.
an asterisk, right?
And then when they reprint it, we'll just have to re-record it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
So
because we've played 7 or 8 of these now.
we played all of them,
Yeah.
apart from France and Ukraine. Right?
Yeah. So anyway,
Let's do it.
let's do it.
So yes, go check this out. But appreciate you very much for sticking around and tuning in. I'm Alexander for thePlayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.